All right, here we are on to assignment 3 of C++, and kind of the way this one was. After this, assignment 4 is kind of basically assignment 3 was to do half of what this is, and then assignment 4 was to finish the other half. So what I decided to do instead was to finish this and then save 4 for fixing any bugs or issues. And there are like probably the most notable bug in here is that there's some infinite recursion, which causes some issues since I'm handing down a bunch of variables. Uh, if I was, then I have done it a different way before, not even because like I fixed it in the next one. I just have these be static, the account manager, your action, user ID, password. I have those be static instead of handing them down and having a bunch of having it be a bit of a mess. And the reason why I even did this in the first place is because it was one of the assignment requirements. If I did it without like had to do this and that wasn't a requirement, I wouldn't have had it be like this because realistically, you're not gonna want to reuse just one part of this menu. You're probably just gonna make something different with it, uh, or just you know, or if I knew I was going to reuse it, I would have. But uh, just having maybe everything in one method and then calling that instead might be a better way to do it. But breaking it up like this, I can see it for readability, but personally, having it broken up in separate methods versus not having it broken up in separate methods is just about as readable to me, both like equally readable. But anyway, there isn't too much interesting in this file other than that, it's just want to use all the different methods. And speaking of, I'll just start from the bottom, I guess, so account. So I forget what they're all called, like, but like design patterns, that's what it is. I kind of went with factory method where you can make an account on its own, which I think if you can do that, it might not be factory method, but you're intended to only make accounts using account manager, and I'll kind of show that when I show off that class. Well, that header file class. Uh, I know the difference. It's just that in Visual Studio, it's weird. You make an extra file, and it gives you a class version and a header file version. Anyway, um, so account is pretty straightforward. Just have your user ID, password, balance. User ID is supposed to be unique, and balance shouldn't be negative, but those checks are in account manager because of what I said. In here, I guess some of the slightly more interesting stuff is that round here, just worth mentioning, and I have this withdraw, which even though if you're withdrawing money, you don't need to see the amount. Or if you're withdrawing money, you're just subtracting from the value, so it can be void. But to let know that this method worked out, I have a true or false here. And see, I have can withdraw. No, if uh, you get out more than you have, then you can't take out money. But as you can see, these are pretty simple. I kind of just did it, broke them up first, and then I realized, oh, these are pretty similar, but I kind of left it that way to show off my thought process. And then if I go into account manager here, this is where most of the meat is. Uh, so just starting right away, just go from the top down. I use a pointer to pointer array. So pointer which points to the pointer, which points to the value. Uh, if I were to do this now, like I don't regret doing it this way, but if I were to do it now, I would use a vector. It's just doing it this way. I don't regret it because it's a more complicated. I learned more than if I just straight away use a vector. And then I have this in size for the capacity of the array, so that's how many accounts it can hold, or how many pieces of data it can hold, or pointers. Then number of counts, which is the number currently in it, and then constructor, which sets that to 5. Number of counts, obviously 0, and then sets up the array. Then I have this resize method, so it's called whenever uh, I'll show it later on, but it's called whenever you're increasing the size of the array, and so um, words are failing me. And so since it's called that way, it makes sense to have it as a separate method, even though it's not called too many times. But called more than once, make it its own method. And it basically, I have the if statement so that if the accounts are, if the current number of accounts is equal to the limit, then see here it doubles the size, and then rearranges them. And then here I have account manager uh, destructor, which just deletes the accounts, free up the memory, and called when program's closed in this case. Then add account. So actually, before I talk about that, I want to talk about this. So find account by ID. So IDs are unique. Um, and this is kind of doing two jobs, which isn't really the best, but in this case it works and it's fine. But you'd want to have separate methods because I'm basically if I want to get an account, that's what this is for. But then also I can use it so you know uh, if I want to check if an account exists by an ID, I just use this instead of having a separate method because it returns an account if it does exist, and then it returns a null pointer if it doesn't. And that doesn't really cause any issues. I think I have to. I'll show it when I get to it. But for the saving and loading, I know it was deleting. I think where I specifically set when something's deleted, I specifically set like that slot to null pointer, which I don't even think you have to do. It's just a kind of a just to make sure. But anyway, here's what I was talking about where, excuse me, where number of accounts equals size, then I call that resize method. And then it just adds the account and see uh, if it's not null pointer, since user ID is supposed to be unique, that's why it returns false, because you have two with the same account user ID, there's going to be issues, so that's why there's that. And then find account by password. Uh, well, by ID and password, that's just so you can sign in. Deposit in an account, so that's kind of using the method from the account, but there's that check for user ID again. Same with withdraw, and same with get balance. It's pretty simple. So yeah, I'll show it off running. So let me just, because I have the save and load. I can't remember if save and load is in the second version of this or in my final, but there is one of them that does have like a save and load. Because I did kind of a similar thing for the final, so that's why I may have it a bit confused. So let's just log in. Blah, blah, blah. So this account doesn't exist. That's good. So let me create one. I'm just gonna have it be my name and then password 1234. And then log in. 1234. And then you can request a balance 0. Let's just withdraw with nothing in there. And then let's deposit. And then request. And then one more withdraw. Then lock it. So yeah, I guess request balance again, see if there's only one in there, and then log. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the recursion error. It just is an issue when it's signing in and signing out. And I actually, that's kind of why I like Visual or Studio Code, Visual Studio. Sorry, it's just with the different names being so similar. Visual Studio better because C Line didn't give me that. It just gave me a bunch of nonsense in the terminal. Like it was doing its best to keep running, which I guess might be a good thing in certain circumstances. But for this, it's you know having that uh, notification box up there just is better in my opinion. more helpful. But yeah, that's this one, and I'll see you next time.